The phone buzzed like an angry hornet against my desk. Mother's name flashed across the screen, a name I hadn't seen in 3 years. My finger hovered over the decline button, muscle memory from countless ignored calls, but something made me pause. Maybe it was morbid curiosity, or maybe I just wanted to hear how she'd try to justify the silence this time. Rachel. Her voice carried that familiar sugary sweetness that always preceded a request. Darling, I've been thinking about you. I kept my eyes fixed on the spreadsheet in front of me, letting the numbers ground me. 3 years is a long time to think, Mother. Don't be difficult. I've been busy with Chloe's college preparations. You remember how challenging that time was. Of course I remembered. I remembered eating ramen noodles in my dorm room while she and Gregory bought Chloe a new car for her sweet 16. What do you want? A practiced sigh whispered through the speaker. We're having some temporary financial difficulties. Gregory's investments didn't perform as expected and Chloe needs... How much? The words tasted bitter. 50,000, just until Gregory's next venture pays off. You have access to your father's money now, and family should help family. I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut glass. Family? Is that what we are now? Don't be dramatic. I know things haven't been perfect, but... Perfect? My free hand clenched into a fist. You kicked me out of my room for Chloe. You forgot to invite me to Christmas 3 years running. The only reason I finished college was because Dad set up a trust fund you couldn't touch. That's ancient history, Rachel. People change, and Chloe really needs... No. The word felt like freedom. Silence crackled between us. When she spoke again, the sugar had crystallized into ice. I'm your mother. You owe me. I owed you respect when you were my mother, but you chose Gregory and Chloe. You don't get to choose me now just because you need money. Your father would be disappointed in you. The laugh that escaped me was ugly. Dad died watching you ignore his existence for 5 years. The only thing that would disappoint him is if I gave you a dime of his money. You ungrateful little... I ended the call, my hands shaking. The office around me felt too small, too confined. Through the glass walls, I could see Evan Carter, Dad's old friend and CEO, watching me with concern. He'd been running the company since Dad's death 6 months ago, teaching me the ropes until I was ready to take over. My phone buzzed again. A text this time. Mother, you'll regret this. Gregory knows people who can make things difficult for you and your precious company. I screenshot the message and forwarded it to our legal team. Then I opened my bottom drawer, pulled out the manila envelope Dad had given me before he died, and broke the seal. Inside was a letter and a USB drive. When your mother comes asking for money, and she will, this is your insurance policy, he'd said. Use it if you need to. I plugged in the drive and opened the first file. My hand stopped shaking as I read. Dad had known. He'd known everything. Every penny Gregory had embezzled, every fraudulent investment, every shell company. I kept it as leverage, the letter explained, to make sure they left you alone. Now it's yours. Use it wisely. I closed the file and looked out at the city skyline Dad had loved so much. Mother wanted to play games. Fine. But this time, I had all the pieces, and I intended to win. Evan knocked on my office door the next morning, his expression grave. Gregory Thompson is in the lobby, says he won't leave without seeing you. My stomach clenched, but I kept my voice steady. Send him up. While I waited, I pulled up the security footage from the lobby on my computer. There he stood, all 6 feet of corporate swagger, in an ill-fitting suit that probably cost more than my first car. The same suit he'd worn when he'd told Mother I was bleeding them dry with my college expenses. Miss Thompson, Gregory's voice filled my office before he did. You're looking professional. I didn't stand. What do you want? He settled into the chair across from me, uninvited. Your mother's upset. That's not how family treats family. Funny, I remember saying the same thing when you sold my car to buy Chloe's prom dress. His smile tightened. Ancient history. We're here to discuss the present, specifically your father's company. My company. Technically, yes, but you're young, inexperienced. The board might appreciate someone with more seasoned judgment. I leaned back, studying him. Is that a threat? A reality check. I have friends on the board. One word about your emotional instability, your vindictive nature. He spread his hands. Well, they might question Michael's judgment in leaving everything to you. The USB drive in my drawer seemed to pulse with possibility, but Dad's voice echoed in my head. Use it wisely. Interesting strategy, I said. Threaten the person you're asking for money. Oh, I'm not asking anymore. He leaned forward. Your mother's devastated. Chloe's future hangs in the balance. The press would love to hear about the heartless corporate princess who abandoned her family. I pulled up a file on my computer and turned the screen toward him. His face paled as he recognized the numbers. Fascinating investment pattern, I said. Almost like someone was siphoning money through shell companies. Companies that, coincidentally, all trace back to you. Where did you... Dad kept excellent records. Would you like to see the rest? He stood so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. You're bluffing. Try me. Or better yet, try the SEC. I hear they love family drama almost as much as the press. You little... He caught himself, adjusting his tie. This isn't over. Actually, it is. Security's waiting outside. They'll show you out. As if on cue, 2 guards appeared in the doorway. Gregory's face twisted with rage, but he allowed himself to be escorted out. My phone buzzed immediately after. Mother, how dare you threaten Gregory? After everything we've done for you, I typed back. Everything you've done? Like what? The response came quickly. We gave you a home, an education. Dad gave me those things. You gave me trauma and therapy bills. I waited, watching the typing bubbles appear and disappear. Finally, Mother, Chloe's crying. I hope you're happy. Before I could respond, another message popped up, this one from an unknown number. Unknown. It's Chloe. Can we talk? Alone. I stared at the message, remembering the little girl who used to follow me around before Mother and Gregory poisoned everything. The sister I'd lost before we had a chance. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. A trap? Probably. But something in the simplicity of the message felt genuine. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Evan entered, holding a manila envelope. This just came from legal, he said. Gregory's been busy. He's filed a motion challenging your control of the company, claiming psychological unfitness. I laughed. Of course he has. Rachel. Evan hesitated. Your father warned me this might happen. He left something else for you. Something even I don't know about. More than the USB drive? He nodded. He said you'd know when it was time, whatever that means. I looked back at my phone, at Chloe's message waiting for a response. Dad had always said timing was everything in business and in revenge. Maybe it was time to find out what else he'd left me. I typed back to Chloe. Tomorrow, noon, the cafe where we used to get hot chocolate. Her response was immediate. Thank you. I closed my eyes, remembering Dad's words. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's making them destroy themselves. Time to set the board. The cafe hadn't changed in 5 years. Same chipped mugs, same sticky tables, same bell above the door that announced Chloe's arrival 10 minutes late. She looked different, thinner, shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. The designer purse hanging from her shoulder was new, but her hands fidgeted with the strap like it belonged to someone else. You came alone? I asked as she slid into the booth. Mother doesn't know I'm here. Chloe's voice was barely above a whisper. Gregory checks my phone, so I borrowed a friend's to text you. That made me sit up straighter. He what? It's not... She glanced around, then pulled out a folded paper from her purse. You need to see this. I unfolded what looked like bank statements. Gregory's name was at the top, but the numbers didn't make sense. Where did you get these? I found them when I was looking for my passport. There's more. She pulled out her phone, the friend's phone, and showed me photos of documents. He's been moving money around for years, not just from the company, but from Mother's accounts too. She has no idea. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Why are you showing me this? Because I heard him on the phone last night. He's planning something big, something about forcing a board vote next week. He said once you're out, he'll have access to everything. The pieces clicked together. That's why they need money now. His schemes are falling apart. Chloe's eyes welled up. Rachel, I'm scared. The things he says when Mother isn't around, I think he's desperate. Why now? Why come to me after all this time? Because I remember. Her voice cracked. I remember when they took your room, how you slept on the couch for months, how Mother acted like it was normal. I was too young to understand then, but I understand now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The bell above the door chimed again. Gregory walked in, Mother right behind him. Well, isn't this cozy? His smile didn't reach his eyes. Chloe, sweetheart, your mother's been worried sick. Chloe shrank in her seat. I stood, positioning myself between them. She's an adult. She can have coffee with whoever she wants. Mother stepped forward, all concerned parent for any watching customers. Darling, you don't understand. Chloe's been unwell, confused. We're here to take her home. I'm not confused, Chloe said, but her voice trembled. Gregory's hand clamped down on her arm. Of course you are. We'll discuss this at home. I pulled out my phone, already dialing. Take your hand off her, or I call the police. And tell them what? He laughed. That concerned parents are looking after their troubled daughter. Who do you think they'll believe? They'll believe the video footage from the cafe's security cameras. I nodded toward the corner where the lens pointed directly at our table. And they'll be very interested in those bruises on Chloe's arm when you let go. His grip loosened. Mother's perfectly composed face cracked slightly. This isn't over, she hissed. Actually, it is. I held up my phone, showing the bank statements Chloe had photographed. The SEC will be very interested in these. So will the board. You wouldn't dare, Gregory snarled. You'll destroy this whole family. You already did that. I turned to Chloe. You have a choice. You can go with them, or you can come with me. Right now. Mother's voice turned syrupy sweet. Chloe, darling, think about what you're doing. Chloe stood, her hand steady for the first time since she arrived. I have thought about it, for years. She walked around the table to stand beside me. Gregory's face contorted with rage. You'll regret this, he spat. Both of you. No, I said, taking Chloe's hand. We won't. We walked out together, the bell chiming one last time behind us. In the parking lot, Chloe started shaking. What do we do now? I squeezed her hand. Now? We show them what happens when they underestimate both Thompson daughters. My phone buzzed, Evan calling. Whatever Dad's final surprise was, it was time to find out. Gregory wanted a board vote. Fine, let the games begin. Evan's office felt like a tomb. He placed a sealed envelope on his desk, the last piece of Dad's legacy, waiting like a loaded gun. Your father recorded this the day before he died. Evan's voice was carefully neutral. He made me promise to wait until Gregory made his move against the company. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. Watch this alone, then decide. Back in my office, Chloe paced while I plugged in the drive. Dad's face filled my screen, gaunt but determined. Rachel, if you're watching this, Gregory's finally shown his hand. He coughed, then straightened. What I'm about to tell you, I should have told you years ago. I reached for Chloe's hand as Dad continued. Gregory didn't just marry your mother for love. He married her to get to me, to this company. He's been playing a long game, one that started before the divorce. The screen switched to security footage. Mother and Gregory in Dad's office, late at night, 15 years ago. Documents spread across the desk. Mother's signature, flowing across papers she hadn't read. Your mother helped him access confidential files, Dad's voice continued. She didn't know what she was signing, but she signed anyway. Those documents gave Gregory backdoor access to company accounts. I discovered it too late. Chloe's grip tightened. That's why he always checked Mother's mail. More footage played. Gregory meeting with board members, making deals, building his network while Dad was dying. I could have exposed them, Dad said. But Gregory had leverage, proof that your mother had signed those documents. He threatened to destroy her, to drag her through court. I couldn't do that to you, Rachel. You'd already lost one parent. My throat burned. So, you let them win? No. Dad's smile was fierce. I let them think they won. Everything they stole, every account they accessed, I tracked it all. The evidence is on this drive, along with something else. Something Gregory doesn't know exists. The screen changed to show another document. My eyes widened as I read. That's impossible, Chloe whispered. Your mother's signature on those original documents, Dad continued. It invalidated her marriage to Gregory. Technically, legally, they were never married. Everything he's claimed as community property, every account he's accessed through her name, it's all fraud. My phone buzzed. A message from Gregory. Board meeting moved up. Tomorrow morning. Choose your next move carefully. He doesn't know, I said. He has no idea. There's more, Chloe said, pointing to the screen where new documents appeared. Look at the dates, the property transfers, the accounts. Mother's name is on everything. If this gets out, I said slowly, Mother could go to prison. Dad's face returned, his eyes sad. The choice is yours, Rachel. Use this information however you see fit. But remember, revenge isn't always about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about saving what matters most. The screen went dark. Chloe's phone lit up, Mother calling. She let it ring. What are you going to do? She asked. I stared at the evidence that could destroy Gregory, and Mother along with him. Dad's words echoed, saving what matters most. We need to talk to Mother, I said finally. Alone, without Gregory. She won't come. She will. I pulled out my phone and typed, I know about the marriage license. Come to my office tonight, just you. Or tomorrow everyone knows. The response was immediate. I'll be there at 8. What if she chooses him again? Chloe's voice cracked. I thought about Dad, protecting Mother even after everything she'd done. About Chloe, finding the courage to break free. About the years I'd spent wanting revenge, never realizing the cost. Then we'll know, I said, and we'll face it together. My phone buzzed again. Evan. Gregory's called an emergency board meeting for 9 a.m. He's making his move. I looked at the USB drive, thinking of Dad's words about saving what matters most. The game wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about choosing what kind of person I wanted to be. Ready? I asked Chloe. She squared her shoulders. Ready. Tonight we'd face Mother. Tomorrow we'd face Gregory. And somewhere between justice and revenge, we'd find our way forward. Together. Mother arrived at 7:58, perfectly coiffed despite the late hour. Her eyes widened when she saw Chloe sitting in my office. What is she doing here? Sitting. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. You should try it. She remained standing, clutching her designer purse like a shield. If this is some kind of ambush, you mean like the kind you and Gregory planned for tomorrow's board meeting? Her composure cracked, just slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. I played the security footage from Dad's USB. Mother, younger but unmistakable, signing documents in Dad's office after hours. Her face drained of color. I didn't. She sank into the chair. I never meant to commit fraud. I kept my voice neutral. To help Gregory steal from Dad's company. To invalidate your own marriage. That got her attention. What? Those documents you signed. Chloe's voice trembled. They voided your marriage to Gregory. Legally, you were never married. Mother's perfectly manicured nails dug into her purse. You're lying. I slid the marriage document across the desk. She stared at it, then at her signature on the other papers. Gregory said they were just investment papers. Her voice had lost its usual polish. He said Michael was trying to cheat me in the divorce. And you believed him? The words tasted like acid. Or did you just not care enough to check? Rachel. Chloe's hand touched my arm, steadying me. Mother's eyes darted between us. What do you want? Want? I laughed. I want the last 15 years back. I want the mother who used to read me bedtime stories instead of the one who kicked me out of my room. I want... The office door burst open. Gregory stood there, face flushed with rage. You followed me? Mother's voice cracked. Of course I followed you. He strode in, yanking her up by the arm. What did you tell them? Take your hands off her. I stood, phone ready to call security. Or what? He sneered. You'll show the board your little documents. Go ahead, your mother goes down with me. Is that what you want? Stop it. Chloe stepped between us. Just stop. Look what you're doing to all of us. Gregory's grip on Mother's arm tightened. Get your coat. We're leaving. No. Mother's voice was barely a whisper. What did you say? She pulled away from him. I said no. The silence felt electric. Gregory's face contorted. Everything I did for us. For our future. You did it for yourself. Mother's voice strengthened. And you used me to do it. Used you? He laughed. I gave you everything you wanted. The house, the cars, the status. You gave me chains. She turned to me, tears in her eyes. And I let you put them on both my daughters. Gregory reached for her again, but this time I was faster. Security arrived within seconds, responding to the silent alarm I'd triggered. Get him out, I ordered, and make sure he doesn't enter the building tomorrow. As they led him away, his threats echoed down the hallway. This isn't over. The board meeting. About that, I held up the USB drive. Dad left us one more surprise. Mother sank back into her chair, trembling. I'll lose everything. No. I looked at Chloe, seeing the same determination in her eyes. You'll lose him. And maybe that's where everything really begins. My phone buzzed. Evan, board members arriving early tomorrow. Gregory's been busy. I can't face them, Mother whispered. The board, the scandal. You can. Chloe took her hand. We'll help you. I stared at the USB drive, thinking of Dad's words about saving what matters most. The revenge I'd wanted for so long sat in my palm, waiting to be unleashed. But looking at Mother's broken expression, at Chloe's hopeful one, I realized revenge wasn't what any of us needed. Tomorrow, I said, we tell the truth, all of it, together. Mother looked up, tears streaming down her face. Why would you help me? After everything? Because Dad did. I met her eyes. Even when you didn't deserve it. The night stretched ahead, full of preparations and painful conversations. But for the first time in 15 years, we faced it as a family, broken, healing, but together. Gregory wanted war. Tomorrow he'd learn what 3 Thompson women could do when they stood united. The boardroom felt like a war zone at dawn. Gregory had arrived early, flanked by 3 board members I recognized from Dad's security footage. His smile was razor-sharp as Mother took her seat beside me. Bold move bringing her, he said. Though I suppose we all enjoy a good public confession. Evan cleared his throat. The board meeting will begin in 5 minutes. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The message made my blood freeze. Check your email. You have 2 minutes to call off this meeting, or everything burns. The attached email contained photos, dozens of them, Dad's private files, account numbers, offshore transactions, things that could destroy not just Gregory, but the entire company. Rachel? Chloe touched my arm. What's wrong? Another message. Daddy wasn't as clean as you thought. Call it off or everyone learns the truth. Mother must have seen my expression. What is it? He knew. My voice felt distant. Dad knew this would happen. The USB drive, the evidence against Gregory. It was all a trap. Gregory's smile widened. Finally figured it out, did you? Your father wasn't just protecting your mother. He was protecting himself. The boardroom doors opened as the remaining members filed in. My phone kept buzzing. More photos, more evidence. Dad's voice echoed in my head. Sometimes it's about saving what matters most. Rachel, Evan's voice was urgent. We need to begin. Gregory stood, straightening his tie. Before we start, I think the board should see these documents about Michael Thompson's creative accounting practices. Wait. The word escaped before I could stop it. His eyes gleamed. Having second thoughts? Everything we'd planned, everything Dad had prepared, it would all burn. The company would fall, taking everyone with it. Dad's legacy would be destruction instead of salvation. Rachel, don't. Mother's voice was stronger than I'd heard in years. Whatever he's threatening, we face it together. You don't understand. I showed her the photos. If these get out, I understand perfectly. She stood, her hand steady. I understand that I let fear control me for 15 years. I won't let it control you too. Gregory's smile faltered. Linda, think carefully about what you're doing. I am. She turned to the board. My name is Linda Thompson, and I have a confession to make. Mother, please. No, Rachel. She squeezed my hand. Your father protected me long enough. It's my turn to protect you. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur. Mother's voice, steady and clear, laying out every detail of Gregory's manipulation. The forged documents, the fraudulent accounts, the invalid marriage. With each word, his face grew darker. You're lying, he snarled, but the board members were already reviewing the evidence on their tablets. Actually, Evan said, she's not. And there's more. He played Dad's video. Not the one I'd seen, but another. Dad, in his office, healthy and strong, methodically documenting every transaction Gregory had hidden. You think this helps you? Gregory laughed. I have proof that Michael was working with the SEC? Evan smiled. Yes, he was. For the past 5 years, documenting everything, including your attempts to blackmail his daughter this morning. The boardroom erupted in chaos. Gregory lunged for his phone, but security was faster. As they led him out, he kept screaming about revenge and consequences. Mother's hand found mine under the table. I'm so sorry, Rachel, for everything. Mrs. Thompson, one of the board members said, given your involvement, I'll resign from any position immediately, she said, and I'll cooperate fully with any investigation. The meeting continued, but I barely heard it. My phone buzzed one last time. Another message from Dad's video archive. The hardest part of revenge isn't executing it, Rachel. It's knowing when to let it go. Some victories come not from destroying your enemies, but from refusing to become them. I looked at Mother, seeing not the woman who'd abandoned me, but someone who'd finally found her courage. At Chloe, no longer the favored child, but a sister willing to stand with me. At the company Dad had built, not perfect but worth saving. Gregory had wanted to burn it all down. Instead, he'd forced us to build something stronger from the ashes. The real revenge wasn't in destruction after all. It was in reconstruction, and we were just getting started. The police station's interview room felt smaller than my office, but Gregory's smirk hadn't changed. He sat across from me, orange jumpsuit replacing his designer suit, but his eyes still held that predatory gleam. Come to gloat? He leaned back, chains rattling. Or did you need Daddy's approval one last time? I came to return something. I placed the USB drive on the table. Dad's insurance policy against you. His smirk faltered. Bit late for that, isn't it? Maybe. But I thought you should know. I'm not pressing charges over the blackmail attempt. That got his attention. He leaned forward, studying my face for tricks or traps. Why? Because revenge isn't what Dad wanted. Not really. I pushed back my chair. The SEC has enough without my testimony. Your mother will still go down with me. No, she won't. I pulled out a document. She's already made a deal. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. The board approved it this morning. His facade cracked. She wouldn't dare. She already did. Turns out when you threaten someone's children, they find their courage. The door opened. Mother stood there, Chloe beside her, both wearing visitor badges. What is this? Gregory's voice shook. Some kind of family reunion? Goodbye, Gregory. Mother's voice was steady. The divorce papers, the real ones, will arrive tomorrow. You can't divorce me. We were never legally married, remember? True, she smiled. But I can make sure everyone knows that, including your other wives. His face went pale. What? Dad wasn't the only one keeping records, I said. Turns out you've been busy in 3 different states. Bigamy's still illegal in all of them. Chloe stepped forward. The trust fund you set up in my name, I've signed it over to the company's restitution fund. You ungrateful little... He lunged forward, but the chains held him back. Goodbye, Gregory, Chloe said. Enjoy prison. We walked out together, leaving him shouting threats that grew fainter with each step. In the parking lot, Mother touched my arm. Rachel, I know I can never make up for... Don't. I turned to face her. We can't change the past, but maybe we can build something new. The company needs restructuring. Evan's helping me clean house. We could use someone who knows where all the bodies are buried. She blinked back tears. You'd trust me, after everything? Trust is earned. I looked at Chloe, who nodded. We start small. Weekly meetings, full transparency. You help us rebuild what Gregory tried to destroy. And family dinners, Chloe added. Real ones this time. Mother's hand trembled as she reached for mine. I don't deserve this chance. No, I agreed, but Dad thought everyone deserved the opportunity to change, even you. My phone buzzed. Evan calling about the emergency board meeting. The company needed stabilizing, relationships needed rebuilding, trust needed restoring. The work ahead was enormous, but looking at Mother's tear-stained face, at Chloe's hopeful smile, I realized Dad had been right all along. The best revenge wasn't destroying your enemies, or even watching them destroy themselves. It was rising above their destruction to build something stronger. Ready? I asked them both. Mother squared her shoulders, looking more like the woman I remembered from childhood than she had in years. Ready? Chloe linked her arm through mine. Let's go build something new. Behind us, Gregory's shouts had faded to silence. Ahead, the future stretched uncertain but full of possibility. The revenge I'd craved for so long had transformed into something else. Something that felt more like redemption. Dad would have liked that. As we walked to our cars, Mother hesitated. Rachel, thank you, not for forgiving me, but for showing me how to be strong again. I thought of Dad's final message. The greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemies, but in refusing to let them destroy who you are. Come on, I said. We have work to do. And together, we stepped into the sunlight, leaving the shadows of the past behind. The nameplate on Dad's office door now read, Rachel Thompson, CEO. My fingers traced the letters as Evan approached, holding a familiar envelope. Found this in Michael's personal safe, he said. Instructions said to give it to you after everything was settled. Inside was a single key and a handwritten note, for when you're ready to let go. The key led to a storage unit across town. Inside, I found boxes of family photos. Moments before the divorce, before Gregory, before everything fractured. Mother holding me as a baby. Dad teaching me to ride a bike. Simple moments of happiness, preserved like insects in amber. My phone buzzed. Chloe. Mum's here. Board meeting in 10. The new boardroom felt different. Brighter somehow. Mother sat near the head of the table, reviewing quarterly reports with an attention to detail that would have made Dad proud. 3 months of weekly meetings had slowly rebuilt something I thought was forever lost. The SEC investigation is officially closed, Evan announced. All assets have been recovered and redistributed. And Gregory? Someone asked. 15 years, Mother answered, her voice steady. Plus additional charges from the other states. I studied her face, still elegant but softer now. The sharp edges of pretense had worn away, revealing glimpses of the mother I remembered. There's one more item, I said, placing a folder on the table. A proposal to establish the Michael Thompson Foundation for Family Reconciliation. Chloe looked up from her notes. What kind of reconciliation? legal support for families torn apart by financial abuse, counseling services, education funds. I met Mother's eyes. Dad believed in second chances. Maybe it's time we did too. Rachel, Mother's voice wavered. The foundation needs a director, I continued. Someone who understands both sides of the story. Someone who's lived it. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You want me to help other families avoid our mistakes? Yes. I slid the proposal toward her. If you're ready. Her hands trembled as she reached for the document. I don't deserve... It's not about deserving, Chloe interrupted. It's about choosing to be better. The board voted unanimously. As everyone filed out, Mother lingered. I found Dad's storage unit, I said. There are photos you might want to see. She hesitated. Are you sure? No. I managed a small smile. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? Later, in Dad's, my office, I opened his last letter one more time. The final lines felt different now. Revenge is easy, Rachel. Forgiveness is harder. But healing, that's the hardest thing of all, and the most worth doing. A knock at my door. Chloe, holding takeout bags. Ready for dinner? Almost. I looked at the photo I'd taken from the storage unit. Our whole family, smiling, unaware of the fractures to come. Instead of pain, I felt something new, something like hope. Mum's waiting downstairs, Chloe said. She found this little Italian place. Does it have good pasta? Terrible, she grinned, but the company might make up for it. I placed Dad's letter in my desk drawer. The revenge I'd craved had transformed into something else. Not quite forgiveness, not quite healing, but something in between, something real. Let's go, I said, turning off Dad's desk lamp. I'm starving. As we walked out, I glanced back at the office. Dad's presence lingered, but it felt different now, less like a ghost demanding vengeance, more like a father watching his daughter find her own way. The company would survive. The foundation would help others, and our broken family. We were learning to be something new, something imperfect but honest. Maybe that was the real legacy Dad left behind. Not the company or the evidence, or even the final victory over Gregory, but the understanding that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply choosing to live well, despite everything. Coming, Chloe called from the elevator. I closed the office door behind me, leaving the past where it belonged. Yeah, I said, I'm coming.